and welcome to the Heart of the Matter. It is always a pleasure to be here with you. Today we're talking a little bit about ghosting. Have you ever been ghosted? Have you ever gone out with someone and expected to hear from them again and then you never did? Or perhaps you've been dating someone for a while and then suddenly they just stopped corresponding with you, stopped responding to your email or your messages, and then you're devastated. You're wondering what went wrong? How could it have been so good? And then suddenly they drop off the face of the earth and did not even bother to give you an explanation. And now you're left without any closure. Well, hopefully this podcast is going to help you find that closure you're seeking. And if it's not you who's looking for it, perhaps you have a friend so you could pass on this podcast to them. Let's talk a little bit about ghosting. What is it exactly? Well, it is an act of suddenly cutting off all communication with someone without any explanation or warning. And it's kind of been the thing now. It's very difficult for people to communicate their feelings, and we're going to talk about that later. But ghosting is a way of just stopping all communications. And as we go through each and every one of these podcasts, as I continue to speak on what I believe, I want us all to always remember that when someone acts a certain way, it's hardly got something to do with us. If someone's going to have a great time with us or give us the impression that they are having a great time with us, and then suddenly shut off all communication, then it's got something to do with their fear of communicating whatever they feel. So it's got nothing to do with you. You want to take that with you as we continue into this podcast. But what it really is, it's just an abrupt ending to the relationship without giving an explanation, and it can be quite damaging. It's got a psychological impact that can be very profound. And it leaves us really confused and feeling rejected and hurt. So let's talk about a few reasons why a person may ghost. Before I get into that, I'm going to ask you, if you haven't subscribed as yet to this podcast, I'm going to ask you to hit the subscribe button. It really helps to push the algorithm so that others who need this kind of information is going to get it. It's such a huge help for me. I don't want to get into the details of it. I want to get straight to serving you as best as I could with this podcast. But if you could do me that favor, hit the subscribe button. That would be really helpful. And thanks in advance. So let's get to some of the reasons that a person may ghost another person. Avoiding confrontation seems to be one of the biggest reasons. People are uncomfortable with conversations that's probably going to lead to something uncomfortable, a difficult confrontation that they are imagining it could be. It's not necessarily the facts. A lot of times we assume that a conversation is going to go a particular way, and usually we come from a place of negative, meaning that we're often afraid that the conversation we want to have is going to go south. And why? Chances are in our childhood, we could not speak up for what we wanted or what we needed. If we did, we were probably reprimanded or told, to be quiet, or left feeling like we didn't have a say. We did not have a right to have what it is we were asking for. So avoiding confrontation is one of the main reasons that people may choose to ghost. It can be, confronting a difficult conversation can cause anxiety for some people. So they will choose that path of less resistance and just simply disappear. Again, not fair to you, but understanding where a person's coming from, trying to empathize with them, will help us to appreciate that their actions has got nothing to do with us, and we can find that closure and let it go. Another reason is the fear of conflict. Many people will ghost another because they fear rejection. So confronting someone about ending a relationship, if that's what it is, can lead to possible emotional distress. And that can cause a person to just ghost because they just don't want to deal with that discomfort of having to face someone and saying, hey, you know what? I really like you, but I'm going to pull back here. It's just not working out for me. They don't want to deal with the emotional distress. I mean, sometimes we try to end relationships and the person just doesn't want to go and they start begging or they start crying. And it is painful to end a relationship. It's painful for someone to listen to someone end a relationship. So naturally, yes, there might be sadness, there might be hurt, there might be devastation. But for the other person, that might be a little too much for them to handle. And so they choose to walk away or choose to ghost without having that conversation. A lack of communication skills. You see, there's one thing to say what we feel. It takes a particular kind of courage to find the right words, to say it the right way so it can be received the way we intend it to. But then we also need to listen. And when we're unable to listen as we're trying to communicate a message, let's just say we're trying to break up with someone, but now we end up with the discomfort of they're upset. So they're now in this space of sadness or anger or whatever it is they're feeling. And we don't know how to embrace that. We don't know how to listen. And because we might have had experiences with breakups going really bad, we would choose to just walk away and let the relationship kind of just die off. And ghosting is one way of letting the relationship die off. Again, I want to remind us that it's got nothing to do with the person who's being ghosted. It's the person who's unable to communicate that needs healing. They need to focus on working on the healing that's going to help them to communicate in a compassionate and kind manner about what their intentions are. So if you've been the person ghosted, this isn't on you. It's nothing that you've done. Another reason a person may ghost is emotional avoidance. If you've been listening to this podcast, if you've been listening looking at my work, following my work, you'll know I talk a lot about those with an avoidant attachment style. We will find those with an avoidant attachment style will struggle with embracing their emotions. So when it comes to having these emotional conversations, let's say about a breakup, let's say about you may want a stronger commitment, or you may have expectations of the relationship and they may just know that, but they don't know how to communicate with you that they're just not in the space of giving it to you, then they may just start detaching. And in detaching, they start to withdraw because they don't want to deal with that emotional conversation. Take on the emotional responsibility of having a proper conversation. So they will tend to ghost. And that ghosting is a way of maintaining some emotional distance. Now, we want to heal. We all want to work on healing our attachment styles. We want to heal our trauma, our childhood wounds that prevents us from showing up with each other or showing up to each other in a way that's going to bring us closer together. I know uncomfortable conversations are just no fun. It's not easy to break a person's heart. It's not easy to deny someone or feel like we're denying someone something that they really want that will make them happy, because we also want to make sure that we're setting boundaries for ourselves, that we're doing what's best for us. And to say to another person, especially when we are so used to being in that people-pleasing mindset, if I don't give this person what they want, they're not going to like me. It's difficult to show up and say, I'm not going to give this to you, because there's something at the back of their mind that knows that this person may just reject them. So it is not an easy thing for a person to show up and have an uncomfortable conversation that's going to cause conflict, that's going to cause another person hurt. However, it is necessary. It is necessary not only for our own healing to learn how to speak up, but it's so important as well for the other person, because if we are in the habit of ghosting, then we're leaving a trail of heartbreaks behind. We're leaving people confused. We're leaving people distressed, distraught, thinking that their pattern of believing they're not good enough is perhaps true. And that's not fair to them. And I'm not saying step into people pleasing and make sure they're happy without making yourself happy. But for us, in order for us to grow, if we are the ones ghosting others, then we owe it to ourselves to learn to heal enough so that we can have these uncomfortable conversations. We need to push through that fear of rejection and meet someone where they're at emotionally and speak to them, give them the closure and give ourselves the strength. We owe it to ourselves and we owe it to others as fellow human beings. I hope this podcast was helpful. If it was, leave me a comment. Remember to share it with your friends. We never know who this is going to reach in time, who needs it. And thank you again for your support. I can't wait to meet you on the next podcast. Remember, if you have any questions, something that you'd like for me to address on a podcast, let me know. You could also find me on YouTube. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Also on LinkedIn, where we're talking about attachment styles and how it affects us in the workplace.